Hello, and welcome back to the RC Fitcast, everybody. This is Casey. With me is Andy and Jesse, and on today's episode, we're going to dig into the press a little bit. That involves all presses, anything from push press, push jerk, possibly a little bit on the split jerk, strict press, all this stuff. Also on the pod today, we'll be recapping a little bit of training. I know I was there for a week. I believe Andy was gone for a week. We'll have to dig into that. We'll dig into a little bit of personal lives. Jess had some time in and away from the gym. We'll dig into that as well. And then we'll lastly get into what we're celebrating. But first, everyone, as normally, if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button, like us, share us with your friends, give us that 5-star rating, leave comments below or around or wherever you're at listening to this thing on what you guys want to hear us talk about, what you guys liked us talking about in the previous episodes. Let us know how we're doing. We always love a little bit of feedback. We hear it in the gym personally, but would love to hear it in the comments below. Start a little bit of communication. But hey, guys, welcome back. Andy, how you doing?
I miss your face. I haven't seen you in a while.
It's
I
been
just saw Jesse today. I get to see Jesse, but you being out of town kind of stinks.
it's
You guys
frequent
swapped
now. It's
spots last
frequent.
week.
We did.
Andy was gone and Casey was here.
Oh man, it was yeah, it's frequent now. I'm gone every other week. It's the job here on that's where I'm sitting right now is Oregon. And so it's great we can do this over the pod, but hopefully next week I'm in town and we'll be able to see each other and do a little bit of a workout. It'll be great. It'll be
Heck
great.
yeah.
Jess, how are you doing? How are the kids doing? I know you guys went through it a little bit, but how's the
We had a
family?
little, we're good. We had a COVID positive. Mason's class had a major outbreak. Um, they closed class for a week because they had so many kids out and the teacher is still out sick.
Ooh.
Mace was good. He he's a pretty high energy little guy. And he pretty much went from the couch to right on the floor playing Legos, back to the couch for 4 or 5 days. They both got out of quarantine on Saturday, went to soccer games, and we were walking home from the game, and Mason's like, oh, what's right here, rubbing his chest? What's right here?
Ooh.
Kind of hurts. I'm like, does it hurt to breathe? Yeah, it kind of stings. It's kind of burning. I was like,
Eee.
yep. So COVID did a number on his lungs, and he was not that sick, and he was feeling it. So he's catching back up slowly, but he's definitely energy is low. But we are
Oh man.
good. But we were locked down for 10 days. So
Yeah. That's
it was good.
that's tough. That's tough.
Yeah.
Glad that the family made it through it though, and that that Mason's starting to run around again a little bit. I know, we spoke. I don't know if it's episode 1 or 2, but we spoke about his steps and talk about being active and how many steps that kid
Yeah.
takes, right? So that's it's got to be a huge change for him, and then also for you guys lifestyle over the last 10 days.
Yeah.
So that's pretty bananas.
I think one of his days he had like 900 steps. I was like,
Oh.
oh, you're about 20,000 short of where you're normally at, of your average. So he was, he's sick when he doesn't want to do anything.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So,
Exactly. Well,
yeah,
that's good. That the family's doing all right. Andy, welcome back
we
from your
are.
trip. I know we can get into that a little bit later. We can talk about hotel workouts later. Shoot, I don't know. But let's recap a little bit. Training. Uh, we're in a new cycle with pause squats. I know we talked about the squat together in episode 1, and today, as I said, we're going to go into the press a little bit. But pause squats, I wanted to touch on that a little bit, and then these 15 rep just obliterate your legs and your lungs, and it feels like you're doing cardio for a minute straight, squats as well, right? So the pause squat, wanted to touch a little bit on that after doing box squats, right? So it looks like in our training, we're reinforcing the good techniques we've honed in on from the box squat, right? We're squatting, we're stopping on the box, we're keeping our belly braced, we're coming up with good technique, pushing our knees out, keeping everything tight and controlled. Now, with the pause squat, we don't have somewhere to relax, right? We're doing the bracing and the sitting ourselves. I guess, Andy, what were you thinking about when you were able to knock out some of those pause squats and work into a heavy for the day?
Well, it was quite the welcome back after our successful 30 days of Murph. That was my first heavy load in a squat, and it it made me think of the cue that I shared when we talked about squats, how important it is to get your hips underneath you as quick as possible. Those 3 seconds sitting in the bottom, because as I looked around the room at other individuals, doing these pause squats, unfortunately, I saw a lot of what we call like the stripper squat, where your hips are rising quicker than time, trying to get those hips to the wall, get those hips underneath the shoulders as quick as possible so we avoid the injuries. But Jesse, I think Jesse was the coach on Monday. Was it you, Jesse? Were you there?
Yeah.
No, that was Mike. I don't remember.
I
think it might have been
was
Mike.
there at 9 a.m. He was there at 4:30.
But anyways,
yes.
Yeah, he was providing some great cues, and big difference noticing people taking those cues and being able to adjust their technique to avoid those injuries. So coaches are doing a great job in the box for sure.
Very good. Very good. Jesse, what do you, I know you were still in the gym coaching a little bit. And so what have you been seeing? I mean, what with that squat, pause squat cycle, and then your feelings on the 15 reps?
I think the pause squat has really made people be able to think how their body is moving and really feel it in that pause at the bottom rather than just trying to force their body to stand. From the bottom of their squat, they can feel their knees collapsing in, or they can feel their midline breaking. And so it's made people really aware, which as a coach, I love, because until the athlete is aware of what they're doing, they can't really change much. So I've really liked it for that. It's been really fun. The 15 squats have been really fun because people are always like, I'm feeling really good for them. And then it's like, halfway through, they're like, not feel good, feeling gone, good feeling gone. So it's been fun, but just to see people power through and like they get halfway done and they're done.
Right.
But still be able to, like, I haven't seen one person just be like, I'm done. Seven's good. So it's been good that everyone's pushing through.
I know
It's
for
been fun. And
sure.
Monday, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I just know for
Go ahead.
sure on the 15 reps when I was able to do it. Kevin was a coach that day in our class, and it was kind of funny. I kind of went all out on it, and it was very. I know, Andy, you and I had this conversation outside of the outside of the podcast on, hey, the 300 squats for 30 days uh, may help you with your squat, right? Because I have trouble getting into the deep bottom of my squat. My hips are really tight, and so working through high volume squats actually aided me. And Kevin was like, "Who is this guy squatting to depth and keeping his chest up?" I mean, I did in my defense, I had lifters on, so it did aid in being able to squat more upright, and I was able to get my knees a little bit more forward over my toes, which allowed my hips to sink a little bit deeper into the squat. But being able to load up on the bar and maintain good position, pushing the knees out, as you say, getting the hips to the wall and really keeping my hips underneath me and engaging my glutes, which I haven't been able to do for a long time, was extremely helpful to being good at squatting. And so being able to put on a fair amount of weight and squat that for 15 times was actually a really fun feeling after putting a barbell, on my back after a whole month of not putting a barbell on my back, right? So it was more empowering and really honing in. Good technique matters in lifting, proper weights. So it was a fun time. It was a really, really fun time. But going up the other end of the spectrum, the other end of the body, the press. Where do we where do we start? Where does one start with learning the press, Andy? What's the first, press?
Strict press.
Boom.
Definitely want to start with the basics. You want to start with that strict press, sticking with the technique there before you move on to the more technical movements of the push press, the push jerk. And then, I mean, that even transitions over into a lot of other movements too, like the overhead squat, handstand push-ups, so on and so
Hmm.
forth.
Exactly. Exactly. And so the points of performance we're looking for in the push press is, for those of you that don't know, barbell stays high on your chest, high on that collarbone. Hands are just about in that clean grip, pressing grip. And instead of, front squat where you have the barbell in your fingertips, you got a full grip on the bar and you're able to have the elbows in front of the, and you're just pressing strict above your head. Nice, smooth. You're finishing out at full lockout, barbells over top of the head. So, Jesse, what do you find most important as you come to lockout of this position?
I'm going to answer this in a few different ways. One of the reasons that RC Fit exists is because we saw over and over again friends and athletes that we worked out with having to quit working out, quit CrossFit, quit working out altogether, and have back surgeries because people worry about the weight so much and they don't worry about the midline stabilization.
Mm-hmm.
And that is our big thing. Like, your back has to be strong so you can do all the things in life, right? Like, if anyone that's had back surgery, it's a big recovery. Like, it's a long recovery. It takes a long time to get over that. And so that was one of our big things moving, like starting the gym, is really focusing on maintaining a neutral spine. People always joke about that Kevin always jokes like, oh, you have a chiropractic office, you can send all the people that you break over. And it's really like, couldn't be further from the truth. We don't want to have athletes go over there because they're broken.
Mm-hmm.
So we really try and, focus on maintaining that neutral spine, bringing your pelvis forward, your rib cage down, really bearing down to keep your back in a safe position in that overhead press and not overextending.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think the press, moving through all of the pressing movements, it's a great teacher of core to extremity movement, right? Everything that we teach about and talk about in CrossFit involves core to extremity, but the press is really driven in the fact that the whole movement is driven through the core from the ground, right? You need to have a stable foot, and a stable foot
Mm-hmm.
leads to your core, and that's where the power comes from, and then leading straight up the body. So then moving from the shoulder press into the push press, where we really are using the floor and a solid base, pushing through the ground, pushing up through our belly and moving the barbell first with our legs and then with our shoulders, coming out to lockout. is very, very important to maintain the core. I know we spoke a little bit before we started about, bracing your belly like someone's going to punch you in the gut as you start this lift, right? Taking a big breath in, bracing big, pushing that belly out, staying tight through your back, and then initiating the lift there. And so I'll say, Andy, is there a certain cue that you say to yourself that you think of when you're about to load up and do a strong push press, right? So we're not re-dipping and jerking quite yet, but this cue is what you're thinking, okay, I'm coming up to a barbell and I need to do a couple shoulders to overhead. This is what you're picking up the barbell thinking.
Tight core, tight butt.
Mm-hmm.
The butt hasn't been mentioned, but those glutes, it's as a coach, it's something I pay attention to.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not just staring at your butt. I'm looking for the correct cue. I honestly do that. I
Oh
That's
yeah,
what I'm checking for to make sure somebody is doing it correctly. I'm looking for that
exactly.
specific technique, and it's easy. Most people are wearing shorts or spandex. It's easy to see if somebody is squeezing their butt.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're literally
Mhm.
squeezing your butt as hard as you can, especially as you get it over that overhead. Because what that is doing is it actually is repositioning your hips underneath your shoulders where they need to be.
Yep.
Because
Squeezing the
Yeah.
you're either going to arch your back too much and your butt's going to go back like you're going into a squat, or
Mhm.
you're going to bring your hips forward too much. But when you squeeze your glutes, you actually position your hips underneath your shoulders where they need to be. So I always think tight core, tight hips. And I'll give you guys a visual, and I've shared this in the class before and people laugh, and I didn't come up with this myself. I have to give a shout out to one of my best friends, Christian Nichols, up in Montana. He's the one that introduced me to this, and I never forget it. I always think about it is imagine that you got a string tied from your belly button to your butt, and you tighten that string, and what happens? Your core, you engage your core, and you
mm-hmm.
squeeze your butt, and you want to squeeze that together as tight as possible, and that's going to give you the strong core that you need to maintain the technique so you can avoid injury as much as possible.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. And I'll dovetail off that a little bit with squeezing your butt, right? When you first initially dip and then come to full extension to get the barbell and use your legs as much as possible, you're not supposed to be moving that barbell off your shoulders until your butt is fully clenched and your hips are fully open, using all of those legs to get that barbell off your shoulders. So, yes, squeezing your butt, very, very important there on that one. And then let's see, going from here, one of my favorite movements in all of CrossFit, the push jerk. Right now, the push jerk is, oh man, it's a fantastic movement that you can really feel like a superhuman when you get the proper timing and accuracy, right? With the proper hip opening, the barbell's flying off your chest, you're dipping underneath the barbell, you're coming to a nice lockout, and you have a solid receiving position. If you're comfortable with that tight belly and you're pressing up through the barbell, almost bending it, right, in between your hands and receiving this barbell with straight arms in a squat position, and then you're able to stand that barbell up, you feel almost superhuman lifting the weight that we do on the push jerk. So Jesse, um, what are your feelings on the push jerk? And yeah, just how you feeling about it? And then
So,
what are
oh, go
your
ahead.
favorite what are your favorite memories of the push jerk, or have you had a solid push jerk in your life that you're super proud of?
I love a good push jerk because strict press is not my not my jam. I Any lift that I can use my lower body, I'm good to go.
Right?
Um, my shoulders are not that strong, so if I can use my big joints and muscles, like I'm good at using the booty. Um, and a lot like Andy said, like I really love just being able to create momentum with my lower body is kind of those are my favorite. Push jerk, split jerk. Um and I don't really have like a favorite memory of it. Like I don't know.
Everything is good, right? It's always
Everything is good.
fun.
Like if I can use my lower body, I'm really happy with my with my movements. Um and I think, I always think quads butt gut, and I say that quads butt gut nice and tight because it stabilizes your midline, engages your glutes, um, and make you think about using your legs to create momentum to push that barbell
Mhm.
upward.
Exactly. Exactly. So, Andy, your favorite cue now, I know squeezing the butt is going to be essential through all these movements. Now, is there a favorite cue from you? I'll share mine first. So, I'll give you a little bit of time to think. I love head through the window as you finish your jerk, right? So the window being your arms, your
Mhm,
head comes through the window, not super violently, but allowing the barbell to finish overhead and give you a solid position. So therefore, you're not pressing out in front of your face, right, with the barbell, which is what you see a lot of
mhm,
new people doing. The barbell kind of comes off the chest and they arch the back, and the barbell kind of ends up somewhere in space above their forehead and not somewhere over their head with straight arms.
Is that my turn now?
Yeah,
Sorry.
I'm gonna no, it's okay. I'm transferring over to you. I was thinking about talking more, but I'm gonna pass you the ball.
Okay. I wanted to first mention that I put the push jerk as well as the split jerk kind of in the same category as the snatch as far as technique and
Mm-hmm.
the level of technique that it takes to get it right.
Most definitely.
Um,
mhm,
I prefer the push jerk myself over the split only because I have bad knees and it makes me a little nervous. But when it comes to the push jerk, and especially individuals that are new to CrossFit and trying to learn that movement, especially when they progress from strict to push press, and then that transition from push press to push jerk, it's that redip that is a struggle for most people. So
mhm,
Yes.
my cue as a coach to make it as simple as possible and the way that I learned was dip drive dip. If I can keep that
mhm,
in my mind for the push jerk, it reminds me to re-dip. So it's a quick shallow dip. I want to
Mm-hmm.
point that out that a lot of people and I struggle with it, especially when I get under a heavier load. Is I like to go a little bit deeper and I almost
mhm,
pause in my first dip.
Mm-hmm.
But it is meant to be a shallow, quick first dip, and then when that bar is about eye level is when you start getting back under that bar, pushing, you know, as quick as possible, kind of like the squat clean, trying to get under that bar as quick as possible,
Mm-hmm.
re-dipping, and then standing back up. So that dip drive dip is a cue that is easy for me to remember and reminds me of the technical part of that movement.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think that's really important for athletes to hear, right? Dip, drive, dip is the key to getting this movement successful, right? And then also not standing up too fast out of that second dip, right? Being able to control that weight,
mhm,
making sure that you're catching it. You've now caught the weight. Don't freak out if it's a little bit heavy and stand up too fast, right? And put your shoulders in a weird position. Make sure that belly's braced. Make sure those arms stay straight. And now use those legs that you're down there already in a half squat or quarter squat and use those legs to stand that thing up nice and smooth and controlled because that is going to be very, very important to finishing out the lift. And then also what you were saying, shoot, you said something, and now I'm blanking on it, but I really liked it. But it went into just the beginning when you were talking dip drive dip there. Jesse, from what you just heard, you got anything to add or talk about their technique wise for the push jerk?
In the, like you were talking about, in the catching in that really stable position, not being afraid to stand up quickly, and also thinking as you catch, locking out those elbows in the catch. A lot of times as we fatigue, we end up catching with our elbows a little soft, and then as we stand, we use that last little stand to press the barbell overhead.
Mm-hmm.
So I gave a few people, like, that was kind of my focus in a few classes today, and people crushed it. I'd give them a one little cue, like, lock out those elbows before the press or before you stand. And people were doing really well today with it. It was great.
Fantastic.
Can I mention one more thing, Casey?
100%.
Uh, it's one. It's a very specific part of the strict press, but transitions over to the push press and the push jerk. Part of the technique that a lot of people don't think about, but makes a huge difference. And I learned it early on, probably 10 years ago. It took a couple years before I realized how much of a difference it made. And that's your grip, the grip
Mm-hmm.
on the bar. Obviously, you want to be outside your shoulders so your shoulders aren't interfering, but where the bar actually sits in your hand is very important. And it takes some mobility for some people. I struggle with it because I got weak scaps, and so I'm it's more comfortable for me to get high elbows. But if I can get my elbows down a little bit more, just in front of the bar, and line up those forearms right underneath my wrist as much as possible,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to find that you can power through much more weight. It
Mm-hmm.
considerably.
Oh
The
yeah.
weight can go up
Yeah.
considerably. You want to put the bar, you want to wrap your thumb for safety, obviously, but you
Yep.
want to put that bar, honestly, as far down in the palm of your hand, on the heel of your hand, as much as possible. And that's where you're going to get the best strength. That's what I
Yep.
wanted to mention.
Yeah, I can totally agree with that. And this is a lift, and why I love it so much is that I have tight lats and tight shoulders. So my pressing position is actually kind of like my front squat position, right? So I have a terrible front squat position, but man, oh man, I have a great pressing position with my arms, right? And so it's one of the great movements where if you're stacked and you're able to press and use that
Mm-hmm.
stacked ability and keep that core tight, have a solid grip on the bar and get that head through the window with those locked out arms, it's giving you this solid base, right? If your elbows are really high, you're going to have to come back under the bar to find lockout. Where if your elbows are a little bit more underneath the bar, 45-degree angle from the bar, then you have a better chance of locking out a little bit sooner and allowing yourself a little bit
I
more of a chance to successfully lift that barbell.
I liked that our workout today was separate. Like, there was a hang power clean, and then the push jerk was a separate movement, so people could feel where their elbows were today. Because when you catch that clean, people forget, like, to catch high to get into a good catch position, and then try and press from elbows high. But really, we need to keep those elbows down so we can press from here rather than a front rack position.
Hmm. And I've always found if we're going clean into press, right? I'm cleaning, possibly a couple fingers come off the bar, but I'm re-gripping a hand and a hand, and I reset from a top position to a rolled back down position to be proud chest, right? I think really proud chest before I go to push jerk. This keeps my chest upright, brace my belly, and the elbows come from here to a low position loaded. I got my lats already turned on because I know I'm going to need them if I'm putting any sort of weight overhead to keep shoulders in check and protected. So
Mm-hmm.
that's, movement quality and understanding, the proper position of your elbows, of your grip position. As you see on the screen here, yes, there we go.
Thanks,
There's your
Dan.
grip
That was
position.
quick.
Thanks, Dan, the producer over there. So if you guys are watching this on video, there's a great illustration here where the barbell, if you're thinking we want A right there on the bar, as Andy was talking about, bar is just next to the thumb. It's sitting almost diagonally. If you're looking at the palm of your hand, for those of you just listening, you're thinking of the bar going across that thumb line to the lower part of the outside of the wrist, right? That's how you're grabbing the barbell. So next time you're in the gym and you grab a barbell, grab it, put it overhead, and feel the difference of, okay, the barbell is going straight across my knuckle line versus twisting your hand and being able to push up, and then grab that barbell and feel like you're going to bend it in the middle and feel those lats turn on, and add more stability to keeping this barbell overhead. So these are just, now we're getting real into the nitty gritty details, but this is what we're here to talk about. This is what we are wanting to do to make you as an athlete more successful, right? This is we're trying to get you to learn this technique and move efficiently, because we want to move until, you know, we get put in the ground one day.
But this picture makes
Also,
total sense,
notice the
right?
position of the wrists on there too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like that wrist is either bent all the way back
Or
or
stacked.
you're in a better position, yeah, stacked here that you can
Mm-hmm.
press. Um, so it's just
Yep.
ergonomically a better position for all of our joints, you know? It's like
Yeah, when you're
stacking
bent
your
back like that, it's just
shoulders
all
over
that
your
weight's in
hips,
your
yeah.
hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
a
When
lot of
you're
pressure on a
stacked,
very small joint.
when you're stacked, there's more power transfer, right? You're not just
Yeah.
transferring power into your hand and your hand is bending back and then it's got to rebend over the top. When you're already stacked like that, the power transfer is instant and there. And so it's very, very important to hone in
Yeah.
this technique right as we're warming up, right? You want to feel this stacked position. Okay, as we're pressing this nice, smooth, stacked position, and not contorted elbows out to the side, wrist bent back.
And you want
Um,
that to be stacked before you even press. It
mhm,
should be part of your
Yeah.
setup, especially coming, it makes it a lot easier coming out of the rack. It's just like if you were set up for a clean and you roll those shoulder blades back and down, you do the same when you come out of the rack. At least I do. You know, I
mhm,
get my grip where I want it to be, and I kind of just
Mhm.
roll myself underneath the bar with my shoulders back, and I place that bar exactly where it needs to be, and then I take that deep breath, big chest, before I even press. That, you
mhm.
know, you got to get in the habit of doing that. You don't want to re-grip as you're pressing. No, you want that grip where it needs to be before you even move that bar.
Exactly. Staying connected to the
And I
bar
think,
the entire time.
yeah, the reason we talk about, we mention the same thing every time on all of these lifts is because it creates muscle memory. If you do if you do your lifts differently every single time, if you don't know, like Andy said, going up to that rack and you just randomly grab the bar and you're not in the
Mhm.
exact same position every time, your body is not memorizing this movement because it feels different every single time.
Grab that bar with
Exactly.
purpose,
Yep. Lift with
Yeah,
you know.
purpose.
I love that.
Very good. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like that was a pretty good conversation about pressing movements and covering everything from strict press to push jerk. If we want to tell a little story of let's kind of transition pressing now. That's pressing in the gym. Now let's go real life, right? Let's get away from gym, but let's talk about how in life we're using core to extremity, we're stabilizing our body, stabilizing our shoulders, and utilizing this now outside of the doors of RC Fit or wherever if you're listening to this, working out, right? So,
Short
Jesse,
girl problems.
I know,
I've got it.
yeah, take
So
it
you
away.
two might not be able to relate to this because you can probably just reach the top shelf in your kitchen, like it's not a big deal.
Andy's
Um,
shaking his head.
okay, well, we do
Step
not have
stool.
like tall cabinets. Okay, well, so I keep all the things that I don't use very often on my top shelf in my kitchen. So I have like some casserole dishes and pie plates, and I have to stack all of them in together. So it's like if I use one of them, it's like taking all of them out. So it's like that lower. I just did this yesterday. So like slide all of them out, and I was like, "Oh, look at this overhead position with like 4 stacked casserole dishes." And then I'm like, and they're all glass. So it's like lower down, soft. Set them down, like go into lower them, set them on the counter, stack them all up again. And I'm like, there's a lot of glass stacked in here. And then I have like some mixing bowls in it. It's just like a bunch of random stuff that somehow all fits together like a little puzzle. And then it was the same thing. I was just like, I wonder if I could push press. Push press? I think I could push press this today. Instead of like, I like took my breath, braced my belly. I was like totally like Andy. I was like, squeeze the glutes and press up. And then I was like, oh, I gotta lean forward a little bit because I'm short, like on my tippy toes. I'm like, this is horrible. I'm getting so mad at an athlete right now. But that's basically how I have to put anything away in my kitchen that's on more than like the second shelf. Or like when we go on vacation, loading the top of the car. I'm like, Kevin's like, hand me the bikes. And I'm like, okay, dip and drive with our bikes to go on the top of the car.
Yep.
I cannot do it myself, but I can push press them up to Kevin.
Perfect. Andy, any sort of relatable real world situations that you've seen or been a part of?
So not necessarily real world application. I didn't really want to go into that too much. It made me think of something that we didn't talk about yet, and just I don't want to get too much off topic, but I want to mention that the the press is also important in maintaining mobility for our shoulders, especially as we get older. I mean, I can think of my grandparents when they were alive, and restrictions on mobility with their shoulders, barely being able to put their hands over their head at times, so it just makes me think of how important it is when we have accessory, whether it's accessory work or stretching. Shoulder maintenance is key. It's not just all about the strength that we're talking about with the strict press. It's about the mobility, and being able to move your joints. Crossover symmetry, I will throw that out there. We have it in the box. It sits there on the back of the wall, collects some
Use it.
dust at times.
Use it.
It's an amazing contraption. It's very easy to follow. If not, then ask one of the coaches, or if I'm around, I'd be happy to share it. I've been using it for years and years, and I can tell you it's the best thing for shoulder maintenance, hands down.
Oh
Best
yeah.
thing.
Andy
And
uses
it will
that
help.
thing more than anybody else in the gym.
It will help increase your press, guaranteed.
Yeah.
I heard.
One more thing talking about mobility. Sorry.
No, go.
Starting
You're good.
starting in November, we are going to have a yoga class every week with Graham. So get ready for yoga. Work on that mobility.
The
If
pro.
you lack, yeah, right? Like you want to see mobility, come to 9 a.m. with Graham. So it's going to start in November. Get ready. Casey,
Awesome.
get ready
Graham
to
is
get into a
awesome.
good front rack position.
Yeah, it'll be like, I'm gonna have to do some work on my lats. I can feel it pulling.
He's there for you.
Sweet. I can't wait. I do have one real world application. Not so much. It falls really directly into Andy what you're saying of not using your body, right? So I'm traveling frequently. I'm on the airplane frequently, and there's people who are they're not old. They're middle-aged folks that are having trouble lifting their carry-on and putting it up into the luggage bin. And it's not because they're short. It's not because they're like just unable. It's their well, I guess it is because they're unable, but they're unable because they're weak and their mobility is complete trash. And so I literally had to, I didn't have to, but I just did. I helped people take their luggage out of the luggage bin on my last trip down here, and I was like, wow, this is a, a legitimate real world application of something where people were struggling to get their, because the bag was kind of jammed and they didn't have the strength or the mobility because their arms couldn't come up to pull their baggage out. And so I just reached up, grabbed it, pulled. A little bit was just like brute strength, but it was the ability that I could still get my hands over my head, grab the bag, pull it out, and give it to them. That
We had an
it.
athlete. Oh, sorry. Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Finish.
No, go, Jess. Go.
We had an athlete join the gym because she traveled every week for work, and she came in on her first day and said, "Can you guys help me get strong enough to put my suitcase in the overhead bin because I have to ask someone for help, and I want to be strong enough that I can do it myself."
Mm-hmm.
And
Exactly.
she came solid 3 days a week with traveling, with having a family, all the things that go on in 3 days a week or 4 depending on her travel schedule for a year, and she was so excited the day she came in. It was like she won the lottery. She came in, was like, "I put my suitcase in all by myself." Like, she's like, someone was like, "Do you need some help?" And she's like, "Nope, I've got this." Like, and it was a big
Exactly.
win in her life. That's a
Mm-hmm.
huge thing.
Yep. And
So
that's
I love that.
the
That's a good,
reason we do what we do,
yeah.
keeping people healthy for the long term, so people can do that and continue to travel the world. So it's that's my little 2 cents, what I'm seeing out in the world, and as I'm traveling back and forth, being out and about, watching people move. It's funny as a person watching people walk around and move, and because that's all you really can do at an airport is just watch how other people walk and move, and just the pain you see in people walking around is you just see people need to move a little bit more. This is probably the most they've moved all week, is just walking around the airport, when on their travel day. So it's not a great sight, and it's what we're trying to do, is get more people to move every single day, because that is what the most important thing is, as we spoke about in the consistency podcast. Go listen to that if you haven't. Oh man. So Dan has a video here, apparently, and we're gonna show it, and then we'll talk about it, I suppose. I don't know what this is.
I'm excited for this in
Oh
honor of today's
no.
workout.
Oh my
Oh
gosh.
man, look how young I was. Dude, I was
Baby
wearing a tank
Casey.
top. So this had to
What?
have been,
Where's the mullet?
This was pre crop
dude, this
top.
had to have been circa 2017, maybe. I haven't
Man,
worn a
right off
tank
the
top
bat,
like that.
look at that positioning
Look at those knees, boy. Ooh, is that barbell gonna hit those
and those
knees, boy?
shoulders rolled forward, straightening the neck. Oh my gosh.
Oh man, I'm trying to deadlift this thing off the freaking. The gravity is turned up to 20. Oh yeah. Oh, knees came out of the way. Okay.
There you
Oh,
go.
Ooh,
yep.
look at
Hips
that
up.
back.
Stripper Casey.
Okay, where's this contact gonna be? Guaranteed, way below the hips. Guaranteed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Watch it. Yep, the barbell's gonna come forward. Ooh, the feet gonna jump forward too?
Reverse
Uh-oh.
curl.
Yeah,
Oh,
buddy. Look how
Yeah.
far
yep.
forward that foot jump was. What? Oh man. Oh, jeez. Good night. Do you see how weak my midline was receiving that barbell? If you're just listening, friends, and not watching the video, uh, this was when I was really starting CrossFit.
I really wish we could
And
have
Looks
a
like
side by side and see how far you really actually have come.
I
It would
wish I
be
know
amazing.
this weight.
mhm.
It would be fun to uh,
Recreate it.
recreate it and see how I mean, it looks like it may be just like 150 55, if that. God, it looks like I'm just trying to rip that thing off the freaking ground. Oh, Dan, I don't think it was that much. That's way too much credit. There's no way I was doing that much weight. It might have been 165. That's the highest I think it would go. I mean, with those wrist wraps, you never know, though. It makes it look heavier.
Look at those
And look at
elbows
that.
forward, Casey.
The elbows forward is pretty good, but look at like those. Look at how just my knees, how they're sitting forward. Ugh. Ugh. Yes, that's
I
a
love that
bummer. And
you're
I think that's. I think
disgusted with yourself. Ugh.
we all have to start somewhere. That's the thing. Let's just note that asterisk. We all start somewhere. And this was after like years of like potentially lifting in college. That's just like the
Is
ability to
this
have good
before your
coaches.
shoulder?
Yeah, that would
This
have
right
been
before your shoulder?
before my shoulder injury. Yeah, actually,
Yeah.
no, it would have
Or
been
right
after because I
after.
started CrossFit right after I injured my shoulder, which was 6 years ago. By the way, this month,
Oh, I
six
thought
years
you
ago,
August 2016.
6 years
Mm.
ago. Oh, that was when I first. That was my first month at the gym, quote unquote month at the
Yeah.
gym, and then
And
October
then you hurt your shoulder, right?
2016 is when I obliterated
Yeah.
my collarbone into 4 pieces.
Yeah.
That's a fun story. But
It was like we met
yeah.
Casey, he came to the gym, and then he was like, "So I'm actually in Washington and I can't come back.
I was like, I'll be back
I'm broken."
soon-ish. That was wild because Kevin was like the only person from Utah that reached out. And I was like, what? I met him like 3
Mhm.
times. Like this is bananas.
I
I
know.
was like, that's when I knew Kevin and Jesse were going to be good friends. I was like, this is neat. This is neat. But okay,
Yeah.
very good. That's a blast from the past. If you guys saw that, if you guys didn't know what I looked like in 2016, there you go. That's fantastic. But currently, now, after those great conversations about the press, a little bit of blast from the past, we're gonna move into a little bit of celebrations. What we're celebrating, what we're looking forward to, kind of thing. We started this last time we spoke, so we'll continue it now. It'll be fantastic. We'll just run around the horn. Andy's to my right on my computer, so I'm just going to go to him first. Unless you're not ready, you can pass it on to Jesse. But
No,
go ahead. Go
I'll
ahead and
take
hit it.
I'll talk about my celebration last week in Vegas. That's
Nice.
so
Whoop,
we
whoop.
had this Vegas trip planned for, I don't know, probably 8, 9 months. Ever since I knew we were going to retire, and
Nice.
we knew that Cedra was going to be finishing up school soon, and it's kind of just a celebration trip for the two of us by
Fantastic.
ourselves. Vegas is one of our places that we just love to go and hang out and see shows and eat good food and
Nice.
people watch and whatever, hang by the pool. And that's what we did last
Exactly.
week. It was a blast. And probably one of the funnest parts was we went to and saw Tape Face, the guy that was on America's Got Talent.
Yeah.
It was a great show. He's hilarious. He's very interactive. I didn't think he would be so interactive with the audience. Every skit, he pulled somebody up.
Oh,
And he
nice.
actually, on the
Oh,
very
those are
last
fun.
skit, pulled Cedra up. She was avoiding eye contact as much as possible.
Yeah.
And he
He could
grabbed
feel
That
her
it.
would be
and
me.
yeah, did some funny stuff up there, but ended up making a rose out of electrical tape for her. It was really cool. And I was
Nice.
like, obviously, he saved the most beautiful woman in the room for last, and it was
Whoop,
awesome.
whoop.
It was fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah, unforgettable.
Nice. That's killer. That's so awesome. That's so awesome. Well, congratulations to the both of you and that nice celebration week. And yeah, I bet that trip was fun. I saw the pictures, loved it. I love Vegas as well. It's a great place, and it's so nice because it's so close.
Hmm.
Jesse, how about you? What are you celebrating?
You know, I'm still going off of like Saturday was our first day of freedom out of like being at home for 10 days. And, Kevin and I, because we're vaccinated, we didn't have to stay at home. But, my coaching schedule changed a little bit because the kids couldn't go with me. So we were at home a lot. So it feels good to like leave the house. I'm still celebrating that. And I'm celebrating we are almost done with a house project. We've been moving our gardens from our backyard to our front yard. So we have like hundreds of wagonfuls of dirt, unloading a garden, digging down, removing these big steel 4x4 boxes, and then moving the dirt back into them. So I have felt very Bob the Builder-ish. I have fixed the sprinkler system. So,
Talk
but I'm
about
very
functional
happy that
fitness.
it's
Yeah, that's some grunt work.
seriously. Also, people always say, when, like sandbags over the shoulders. We did those the other day and people are like, when am I ever going to do this? Let me tell you, when you're like almost out of dirt, but it starts raining and it's on a tarp and you're like, I just want to get this off my driveway. You wad it up into a tiny little ball, and you should see me. I was like tying up the tarp, getting my hands under it, like getting under it, cleaned it, tossed it over my shoulder into the wagon. And I was like, this is when you do sandbags over the shoulder, people. Like, I would have never known how to do that had it not been for doing that in the gym. I would have been like I just have to like scoop it with my hands, because it's not like, when there's just a little bit of sand left or dirt, but it wasn't like I had to get it off in a hurry because it was starting to rain.
That's awesome.
Casey,
Nice.
let's talk about your celebration, because I feel like Casey has been looking forward to this moment for years, but also maybe this moment of like telling the world or the people that listen to this podcast
The tens of
what was
listeners.
the best moment of the last like 10 days of your life?
So I have taken ownership of a Sprinter van, 4x4 featured, whoop, whoop, whoop. And I now have the opportunity to build out this blank canvas into whatever I want to do with it. And I am beyond excited. I'm not going to lie, it keeps me up at night sometimes thinking of all the options that I can do with this. And I don't want to do it wrong, but I want to do it right, but I want to get it done. All of these things encompass into one. And that's what I think about consistently at work, away from work. I talk to Shelby about it all the time. She's probably sick and tired of hearing about it. She's going to hear about it on here and be sick and tired of it. But yes, I got a van, and opposite to what you all think and what Andy said, I'm not going to
Cue
go
the
live
Matt
down by
Foley
the.
clip.
I'm not going to go live down by the river.
It just might be in back of the gym.
I could live in the back of the gym, and I'll shower at the gym. It'll be great.
You're gonna live at the
We've
ski
talked about
resort
this
is what you're gonna do.
for years.
Exactly.
Except when he's in Oregon.
Maybe one time this winter well, maybe I'll do a podcast from inside the van. It'll be great.
Might be a little
But that's
chilly
what I'm
before that build out.
celebrating. It'll
That's
be
awesome.
fun. We'll see what happens with it. There's plenty of plans all around in my head. I have them written down in Excel. I've tried to do like blueprints for it. It's a fun little time. It's a stressful thing, but I try not to be super stressed about it because I know I have all the time in the world to do something with it. So it runs and drives, and Shelby and I have driven it around already, and it's comfortable. We sit higher than most lifted trucks, and so it's hilarious looking over the top of lifted trucks. I'm like, what? You guys think you're big, but look where I'm sitting.
That's awesome.
It's a
Oh
cool
man,
van.
I'm excited about it. It's very good. It's a nice stepping stone to something that I've been looking for and talking about forever. I think we've been talking about this thing for like 3 years, so finally been able to find one. So it's good. It's good. I'm excited. Oh man.
Congrats.
But yeah, the celebrations for everybody. Check that box mark. Done with that. Very good. Well, guys, I'm gonna close it out now. Fantastic communication this evening. That was a great podcast. But here we go. We'll, like we say every week, everybody out there, like, subscribe, comment, give us a 5-star rating if you enjoyed us. If you didn't, I'd really prefer you not give us a 1-star rating. But if you do, leave a comment why. and we'll try to make it better. I don't know. But I hope you all enjoyed. Listeners out there, share this with your friends. You can find us RC RC Fit athletes page. If you're part of the gym and not part of the athletes page, join. And then RC Fit on Instagram. Find us there. We post frequently of the classes. I saw kind of what we're talking about. Graham's going to be doing yoga. I saw him working out on the Instagram page. I hadn't seen him work out on the Instagram page for a while, so that was fun to see him there. Shout out to Graham. But that's another little thing we can all celebrate together, mobility in November. So that'll be fun when that starts up. I know when I'm in town, I'm going to go to that. More details to come on that later. But all my friends out there listening, thank you very much for going through this journey with us. And like we always say, stay healthy, my friends. Bye bye.